If you walk into your local garden center in the spring, you are bombarded with the same options: Italian figs, Mediterranean olives, and Japanese plums. But here is a shocking reality. Most of the fruits we struggle to grow in our backyards were never genetically designed for American land. For millions of years, the unique soils, unpredictable weather patterns, and diverse climate zones of the United States were breeding their own line of elite, ultra-resilient fruit crops. From the baking sandy soils of the Southeast to the freezing clay flats of the Midwest, these native plants didn't just survive. They thrived without a single drop of chemical fertilizers or synthetic pesticides. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we are diving deep into the American soil to uncover 10 ancient native fruit crops you can easily grow in your backyard, raised beds, or patio containers. These are not just hyper-local curiosities. They are nutritional powerhouses, historical treasures, and the ultimate cheat code for high-yield, low-maintenance home orchards. And make sure you stick around for our number one spot, a fruit so bizarrely tropical, yet incredibly cold-hardy, that it was a personal favorite of George Washington and Thomas Jefferson. Let's count down the 10 ultimate native fruits for your U.S. garden. Starting our countdown at number 10 is the American Cranberry. When most people think of cranberries, they picture massive commercial bogs flooded with millions of gallons of water. But this is a major misconception. Cranberries do not grow underwater. They are actually low-growing, evergreen woody vines that thrive in moist, acidic, and sandy soils. If you live in the cooler regions of the U.S., specifically USDA zones 3 through 7, this is a spectacular ground cover for your landscape or a unique addition to shallow patio planters. The secret to growing cranberries at home is replicates of their native land. They strictly demand a soil pH between 4.0 and 5.5. You can easily achieve this by mixing peat moss and coarse sand into your planting beds. Clinically, these tart berries are legendary. A study published in Phytochemistry confirmed that the American cranberry contains exceptionally high concentrations of A-type proanthocyanidins, or PACs. These unique compounds physically prevent bacteria from adhering to cellular walls, making them a scientifically proven defense against urinary tract infections. Historically, Native Americans prized the cranberry, mixing it with dried deer meat and tallow to create pemmican, the ultimate survival superfood that could remain edible for years. Plant a few vines along your garden borders, and by late autumn, you'll be harvesting your own fresh, tart cranberries for a homemade Thanksgiving sauce. At number 9, we head to the windswept dunes of the Atlantic coast to find the beach plum. Native from Maine to Virginia, this deciduous shrub is one of the most rugged survivors on the American continent. It has evolved to thrive in USDA zones 3 through 8, growing directly in shifting sand dunes where it is constantly bombarded by salt spray and parching winds. If you have poor, sandy, nutrient-depleted soil that kills other fruit trees, the beach plum is your answer. It features a massive, deep taproot that locks into the dry earth, making it highly drought-tolerant once established. It grows as a multi-stemmed shrub reaching 6 to 10 feet tall, exploding in a cloud of fragrant white flowers in late spring before producing small, intensely flavorful plums in late summer. To successfully grow beach plums, plant at least 2 shrubs to ensure cross-pollination. They require full, baking sun and loose, well-draining soil. Heavy, waterlogged clay is their only enemy. Culinary enthusiasts along the East Coast hunt for these wild plums to create beach plum jelly, a sweet tart spread with a deep, complex fruitiness that commercial plums simply cannot match. It's the ultimate edible conservation plant, stabilizing your soil while delivering a gourmet harvest. Coming in at number 8 is the Western champion, the golden currant. While European currants are famous, they are highly susceptible to diseases like white pine blister rust, which actually led to them being banned in the US for decades. But the native golden currant is a different story. Found wild across the Rocky Mountains and Western Plains in zones 3 through 8, this plant is incredibly resilient. In early spring, the golden currant becomes a star of the yard, producing masses of bright yellow flowers that release an intoxicating fragrance resembling spicy cloves and vanilla. These blossoms draw in native pollinators when other plants are still asleep. By midsummer, these flowers give way to clusters of sweet tart berries that transition from yellow to translucent red, and finally to a deep glossy black. Unlike its moisture-loving European cousins, the golden currant is highly drought-tolerant and thrives in alkaline soils, common in the American West. It grows up to 6 feet tall and is perfect for edible hedges or wildlife corridors. Nutritionally, these berries are packed with vitamin C and iron. They can be eaten fresh off the bush, baked into rustic pies, or dried like raisins for a sweet winter snack. At number 7, we have the American plum, also known as the wild plum. Native to the vast grasslands and woodland edges of the Midwest and Great Plains, this tree is built to survive the harshest extremes of the American climate. From freezing winters in North Dakota to scorching summers in Texas, Prunus americana thrives in USDA zones 3 through 8. This is a fast-growing, medium-sized tree that adapts to almost any soil type, including heavy clay, loam, or dry gravel. It is incredibly cold hardy, withstanding temperatures down to minus 35 degrees Fahrenheit. In the spring, the tree is completely covered in a dense blanket of snow-white flowers that act as a crucial early-season nectar source for native bees. By late August, the branches will bend under the weight of 1-inch yellow-red fruit. The culinary trick to the American plum is its flavor profile. The flesh is sweet and juicy, while the skin is thick and sharply tart. This makes them outstanding for processing into rich jams, fruit leathers, and wild plum wines, where the tartness of the skin balances the sweetness of the flesh. Furthermore, because of its thicket-forming nature, it serves as a spectacular windbreak and nesting habitat for native birds. Sliding into number 6 is the Maypop, the hardiest passion fruit species on Earth. When we think of passion fruit, we picture the tropical rainforest of Brazil or Hawaii. But the Maypop is native right here in the American Southeast, thriving in USDA zones 6 through 11, and even surviving in Zone 5 if heavily mulched. The name Maypop comes from 2 sources: the vine's habit of popping out of the ground in May, and the loud popping sound the hollow, egg-shaped fruits make when stepped on. This herbaceous vine climbs up to 25 feet using delicate tendrils, making it a spectacular choice for patio trellises, fences, or arbors. The flowers of the Maypop are an absolute botanical masterpiece. In the 16th century, Spanish missionaries named it the passion flower because they saw its complex structure as a biological symbol of the crucifixion. The fruit that follows is filled with sweet, highly aromatic seeds embedded in a tropical pulp that tastes like a blend of apricot and passion fruit. Beyond its exotic taste, the Maypop holds profound medicinal value. A clinical study published in Anatomy and Cell Biology confirmed that extract from Passiflora incarnata contains passiflorine, which naturally increases levels of GABA in the brain. This calms brain activity, making it a scientifically validated treatment for insomnia and chronic anxiety. It is also the primary larval host plant for the stunning Gulf fritillary butterfly, bringing beautiful orange visitors directly to your patio. At number 5 is the evergreen huckleberry, a coastal treasure native to the Pacific Northwest. If you have a shaded backyard, acidic soil, or a concrete patio with room for containers, this is the ultimate dual-purpose plant. It serves as a premium ornamental evergreen shrub with shiny, leathery leaves that transition to coppery bronze in the winter, while producing some of the most sought-after berries in North America. Thriving in USDA zones 7 through 9, the evergreen huckleberry is highly shade-tolerant, making it perfect for planting under forest canopies or on the shaded north side of your home. It prefers moist, acidic soils rich in organic matter. If growing in containers, a mix of peat moss, pine bark, and acidic potting soil will trigger rapid growth. The harvest begins in late summer and can last well into the autumn. The berries are small, dark blue-black, and packed with an intensely sweet, concentrated flavor that easily rivals any commercial blueberry. A report in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry showed that wild huckleberries contain exceptionally high levels of anthocyanins, powerful antioxidants that cross the blood-brain barrier to protect cognitive function and improve eye health. It is a slow-growing but incredibly rewarding plant that brings the magic of the foggy Oregon and Washington forest straight to your backyard. It is amazing to realize that these incredible superfoods have been growing wild in our forests and fields for thousands of years, completely ignored by modern grocery stores. I'm curious, have you ever tasted a wild American berry? Or maybe you are lucky enough to have a wild plum or pawpaw tree growing near your property? Let me know in the comments below. I love hearing about your backyard food forests. If you are enjoying this deep dive into Native American crops, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. We have a lot more seasonal gardening guides coming your way. Now, let's head into our top 4 native fruits, starting with a tree that Lewis and Clark relied on to survive their historic expedition across the continent. At number 4 is the serviceberry, also known as the Juneberry, Saskatoon berry, or shadbush. This elegant, small tree or large shrub is native to almost every state in the U.S., from the cold northern woods to the dry western canyons, thriving in USDA zones 3 through 9. The name Serviceberry comes from New England history. The tree's white blossoms were the first to appear in spring, coinciding with the thawing of the ground and the return of traveling ministers to perform funeral services. The name Juneberry simply marks the month the fruit ripens. Unlike blueberries, which demand strict acid soil, the serviceberry is highly adaptable, thriving in neutral soils with a pH up to 7.0. It easily tolerates clay loam soils and can be grown as a stunning patio specimen or a landscape highlight. The fruit looks similar to a blueberry, but botanically it is a pomme, related to apples. When you bite into a ripe Juneberry, you experience a complex sweet flavor that tastes like a blueberry mixed with a hint of sweet almond. This almond flavor comes from the seeds, which contain natural compounds that release a nutty aroma when cooked. Historically, Lewis and Clark documented using Juneberries to survive their return journey in 1806, mixing them into dried meat. Today, they are a favorite for gourmet jams, pies, and fresh eating. Stepping into our top 3 is the Muscadine Grape, the undisputed king of the American South. While standard table grapes struggle with humidity, powdery mildew, and the devastating Pierce's disease, the Muscadine stands completely immune. Native to the hot, humid South from Delaware down to Florida and west to Texas, this vine thrives in USDA zones 7 through 10. Muscadines are genetically distinct from European wine grapes, Vitis vinifera. They possess 40 chromosomes instead of 38. This genetic difference gives them thick, leathery skins and a robust immune system that allows them to shrug off pests, fungal diseases, and intense summer heat. They thrive in sandy loam soils and require a sturdy trellis to support their massive, vigorous growth. Nutritionally, the muscadine is an absolute monster. Research published in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry confirmed that muscadine skins and seeds contain extraordinary concentrations of ellagic acid, a powerful anti-inflammatory compound not found in significant amounts in any other grape species. They are also packed with resveratrol, supporting cardiovascular health. The fruit is large, sweet, and musky with a unique slip skin texture. In Manteo, North Carolina, you can still visit the mother vine, a muscadine grapevine planted around 1584 that is still producing fruit today, proving the near immortality of this native southern icon. At number 2, we have the American Persimmon. This tree belongs to the Eboniaceae, or ebony family, and is the only member of its tropical group native to North America. Found wild from Connecticut to Florida and west to Kansas, it thrives in USDA zones 4 through 9. Like its tropical relatives, the wood of the American persimmon is incredibly dense, hard, and impact resistant. Historically, it was the exclusive material used to carve the heads of premium golf clubs. But the real treasure is the fruit. Growing American persimmons requires a bit of patience or a grafted tree. Grafted varieties like Proc or Claypool will begin producing large, golden orange fruits in just 2 to 3 years. The critical secret to the American persimmon is managing its tannins. Unripe fruits are packed with soluble tannins that will instantly dry out your mouth and cause a violent pucker. However, as the fruit matures and softens to the texture of a water balloon, these tannins become insoluble. The flesh transforms into an incredibly rich, sweet custard that tastes like brown sugar, honey, and dates. You don't need a hard frost to ripen them. You simply need to wait until they are completely soft and drop naturally from the branch. They are the ultimate ingredient for historic American persimmon puddings, breads, and leathers. Finally, securing the crown at number 1 as the ultimate Native American fruit crop is the Pawpaw, also known as the Indiana banana or hillbilly mango. This is the largest edible fruit native to the North American continent, yet millions of Americans have never even heard of it. The pawpaw is a botanical anomaly. It belongs to the Ananaceae family, which is otherwise entirely tropical, containing custard apples and cherimoyas. Yet, the pawpaw has adapted to survive freezing temperatures down to minus 25 degrees Fahrenheit, thriving in USDA zones 5 through 9 across the eastern and midwestern US. The tree grows 15 to 25 feet tall with massive, tropical-looking leaves that bring an exotic aesthetic to any backyard. Because it evolved as an understory tree in fertile river basins, it prefers rich, organic, well-draining soil and appreciates partial shade when young. To get fruit, you must plant two genetically distinct trees. The pollination of the pawpaw is incredibly bizarre. The flowers are dark maroon and produce a faint, yeasty scent designed to attract flies and carrion beetles rather than bees. When you slice open a ripe pawpaw, you're greeted by a soft, bright yellow pulp with a texture exactly like thick custard. The flavor is an explosion of tropical notes, a complex blend of mango, banana, and vanilla. Because the fruit is incredibly delicate and has a shelf life of only a few days, it cannot be shipped, meaning you will almost never find it in a grocery store. The only way to experience this legendary fruit is to grow it yourself. It was a favorite of Native Americans, early pioneers, and founding fathers alike, and it remains the ultimate king of the Native American backyard orchard. The rich soils of the United States are waiting to feed us. If we only start planting what belongs here, by adding native crops like the pawpaw, the muscadine, or the serviceberry to your backyard, you are not just planting a garden. You are restoring a piece of American botanical history. So, which of these native giants are you going to plant in your backyard this season? Are you going to seek out a pawpaw tree or try your hand at growing a container-friendly beach plum? Let me know your game plan in the comments. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and share this video with your fellow gardeners. Get out there, get your hands in the dirt, and happy gardening. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.